Hi, everybody. I don't know what is better, so I prefer if you guys tell me in the comments glasses, no glasses. So here it is, glasses on and glasses off. I can't see the screen very well, but you guys can't see my eyes. And so, um, whatever you guys like better. There's a lot of glare here for you guys, and I don't know. So I'm gonna have them off today. I can't see the screen, but that's okay. I know, age, right? Okay, so anyway, last time I came on, I was very excited, had some very exciting news, and then there's a couple of things that happened, and then I've been off for a while. So let me tell you what happened. So I had an experience um, years and years and years ago. Um, how do I put this? So then um, years later, I was listening to a podcast, and the person that owns the podcast said, if you've ever had a encounter and you would like to be on my show, or if you would just like to talk about it, then please send me an email and I will give you a call. And so I sent the email, and then he called, and he's an amazing person. And so that's why I'm not going to mention any names, because I really like this person. And, I don't want anybody to call him, because I don't know at this point what's going to happen. So he was like, oh my gosh, this is um, something, right? And so it was rather shocking for me. And so then he was like, can I give you a call? And I was like, yeah, sure. And this is all while my husband was in Turkey. And then he was like, well, I want to hear about it. I want to talk to you some more, blah, 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 blah. And so we set up a time for him to give me a call. Well, his dog got sick. And so I sent him a text message. I had no idea that his dog was sick. But I sent him a text message, and he texted me back, and he was like, my dog is sick. And I know that he is telling me the truth. He's not one of those kind of guys that just, for his podcast, just be like, oh yeah, blah, 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 and lie to someone. He's just not that way. So then he never called me back. So I waited, and I waited a couple weeks, and then I sent him a text message, and I just said, hey, I hope that your dog is okay. If you have time, or if ever you feel like it, you can always text me, and we can talk about my experience. And I didn't hear anything from him. But I know that he's okay, because he's still posting podcasts. So I for weeks now I've kind of debated. I kind of went into myself, because I had to really try to digest this. And so I decided that I am going to share this experience right here. This is the first time I've told other people, but here, let me tell you what happened. Let me give you a little bit of a backstory first. And I'm kind of putting myself out here. And I know that I'm going to get ridiculed. I know that it's highly controversial. So, but without any more explanation, let me just come out and say it. So, in 2013, I married my husband. I made a promise to my kids that I would come back to United States, and I had been in Turkey. And there's a whole explanation for that. There's a whole big old backstory for that, but that's not what I'm talking about right now. And that's not what I'm focused on. So I came back, and when I came back to America, if you do not work for the government or if you do not work for the military, when you leave for longer than 18 months out of the United States and you live for 18 months out of the United States, you don't lose your citizenship, but you can lose your residency. So I lost my residency, unbeknownst to me not knowing the rules or the laws. So when I came back to America, I had to kind of basically start all over again in a lot of ways. I had to regain my residency so that I can start helping my husband come here. And that took a year and a half. And then at that point, I had to make an X amount of money. And I had to do a whole bunch of other things in order to bring my husband here. It took 5 years, 9 months, almost 6 years. Wait, let's see. Yeah, actually, yeah, 5 years and 5 years and 10 months. 5 years and 9 months, sorry, before my husband was able to come here legally with a green card and live with me. And that was only 3 years ago. So, so in the meantime, I had to kind of start all over again in a lot of ways. And one of the ways that I had to do it was I went to Las Vegas because I thought that my husband works in the hotel industry, so I thought that being in Las Vegas, he would be able to find a job really quick. But I didn't have a car, and Las Vegas public transportation, living there, sucks. It's horrible. It's worse than Utah, and it's as bad as and worse than Idaho. It's really, really bad. Especially for such a large city and all of this money that they have for, gambling and this and that and the other, you would think that they would have a way, way better public transportation, but they don't. And then there were a couple of other things, and I was just like, okay, I am done here. But I didn't want to give up. I needed to be with my kids. I wanted to be with my kids. Now that they are adults, I need a connection with them. And I made a promise to them that I would come back. And I could not break that promise. So, I ended up calling a friend. I was like feeling so low. So I called a friend, and she lived in Utah. And I already have family and stuff in Utah. We've known each other, gosh, since first grade. And so we've known each other for 40-something years. Yeah, I'm ancient, I know. And so she was like, F that noise. Come up, stay with me, let me help you get on your feet, and then, we can, you can go from here. But, you need to be with your kids, you need your family, and just come back to Utah. So I ended up moving up there, and I moved into her house, let's see, October-ish. November, well, November, December, January, February. So I lived with her for just about 3 months. And then I worked like 3 different jobs, and I saved enough so I could get first and last month's rent plus a deposit. And then I worked another 2 jobs to be able to pay for the rent, right? So I didn't have a car, so I walked everywhere. And where I walked is there's this little town in Utah, and it's more like a township, and it's in northern Utah. And I don't want to say where it's at because of the following reason. And I don't want to mention names of my friends because I want to protect their privacy, and that's a very obvious reason. So anyway, I would walk. So I moved into my new place, and that was about February 5th, that I moved into my new place. And that was February 5th, about 2014. So I had been married for about 6 months now, February 14th. And so I ended up just literally walking everywhere for a job. I got a job that's at a ski resort, and I'm not going to mention which one. And it's 8 miles up to the top of a mountain, and it's in the Uinta Mountains, obviously, because, I did say I'm in Utah. And there's timeshares up there. And so I worked for my friend. She has a hotel, and then I also worked for a company that has timeshares. So all I did was timeshares. I would clean out the timeshares. And then for my friend, I did a lot of cleaning for her to just earn extra money. And then I also did like odd jobs around town to do everything I could to get my husband here. Well, so I'm skipping around in details because there's some details that is not necessary. But this is the thing, is I would catch a ride up to the timeshares, and then depending on my schedule, I would either walk down back home at night, which is 8 miles, and it's a 17% grade all the way down to my home, and then catch a ride, and then I would be there, I'd walk home, and then I'd catch a ride a couple days later, go back up and do the whole week all over again. Sometimes though, in my schedule, I would, after work, I would walk to the hotel that my friend owned, and I would do some cleaning for her and flipping, what do you call it? Her hotel rooms, and then I would stay there for the night, and then I would either come home or she would come and get me, and then she would take me home. So I did that for months. And in the summertime though, about April, when the snow melted and there wasn't any snow going down the mountain because I didn't want to slip and fall in that stupid ice stuff because it can be really gnarly. So anyway, I would walk home at night, and usually it was around 10:30 or 11. There were times that I would just walk 1 mile. So the timeshare is up on this hill, and you'd walk down, and exactly 1 mile would be the hotel rooms that my friend owned. So, there were a lot of times I would just walk down there at night. And it was around, I would get off work around 10:30, 11. I started off at like 7:30 in the morning with the timeshare company until like 3:34 in the afternoon. But then she gave me a front desk job, and so I ended up not having to do that anymore. So I ended up just, just walking downhill. And when I worked the front desk, I walked home at night. So I would lock up the buildings, I would make sure everything was safe and sound, and then I'd go home. Well, when I say go home, I really so when you walk down, you go down and then you switch back, then you switch back again, and the road all either up or down is super windy, and like it can be really gnarly. So in Utah, especially northern Utah, I was living in bear country. There were signs everywhere that said, "You are now in bear country." So black bears, brown bears, grizzly bears, we had moose, we had elk, we had deer, we had raccoons, we had beaver. Beaver are still around. They were up there. What else did I see? Oh, cougars, mountain lions. Cougars, huge. They are huge. And then other animals, grouse are up there. Bats, of course. What other wildlife? There are cranes that would come in, and even pelican, which is kind of crazy. You would think that they would be a sea animal or seabird, so why the heck are pelicans there? I don't know. It's kind of crazy there. But there are a lot a lot of different kinds of cranes, all different kinds of birds. There's a bird sanctuary like 15 miles from where I lived. Wildlife sanctuary about, there's all these different kinds of places up here. And in Utah, hunters know that Utah is a place to go hunt. I know that Idaho and Wyoming and Colorado are excellent, but Utah's a really great place to hunt. So anyway, so there is a lot of wildlife. Now let me backtrack. So, there were, where I lived, not a lot of people, because where I lived, they were condos and it was on a golf course. And these condos were built in like the 70s, I believe. And they were really inexpensive. And if you bought a condo, then you got a free grandfathered access or membership to the country club up there and the golf course. And so a lot of people in the neighborhood would buy these, buy homes. They would get this like yearly annual pass to the golf course and country club kind of thing. And so I had this friend of mine that they had bought like 3 or 4, 5 condos at this place. And in the winter time, a lot of the employees of the ski resorts, because there's a few around where I lived, there wasn't just one. And so the ski resort employees, they would live there, and there would be like maybe 4, 5, 6, sometimes even 8 to a condo, and then they would just ski and work all day, and then at night they would, kind of there's not a whole lot to do. Everything closes at like 6 p.m. So they would, you know, hang out, drink some beers, and the hot tubs were open until like 11 or 12 or something like that. So they would, like, you know, come to the hot tubs, you know, have a couple beers, even though it says no alcohol. Nobody told on anybody about that. And then, you know, there would be someone with a guitar and, you know, just kind of chill and stuff. And then it was like work hard, play harder kind of thing. And so there were times where I go to the hot tub and I would just hear this like drunk owl. Well, a drunk guy trying to sound like an owl. And he'd go, woohoo! And I'm like, that is the weirdest sounding owl. And, and my friend was like, how do you like living at your place? And I'm like, I like it. It's great. Except for the drunk guy. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, the drunk guy, he's always like pretending he's an owl. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, he always says, woohoo, woohoo. And literally that's how he sounded. And I'm like, you're not fooling me. You're not an owl. You know, it's like the weirdest thing, right? And he would laugh and he'd go, that is an owl. I go, I'm telling you, it's not an owl. It doesn't even sound like an owl. It sounds like a drunk guy trying to sound like an owl. I know what an owl sounds like. And he's like, oh, Dina, you're just so funny. Ha ha ha. You know, and we just kind of laugh it off. So then there were other things. Like I would hear this woman screaming. Now downstairs there was this lady that her and her husband would fight and fight and fight. And then she'd go, get off of me, that hurts. And then I would call the police. And he would come out, or the police as in, yeah. He would come out and they would be like, oh no, nothing's going on. And I'd be like, okay, whatever. So finally, one night, I called the police. I was so done with it. And the police came and arrested him. But I didn't know that the police had arrested him, okay? So I'm just like, oh, and you could hear this woman screaming. It sounded like it was downstairs, but then it also sounded like it was kind of like in the golf course. And because it was snowing out there, you know, nobody's gonna be in the golf course, but it sounded like that. It was just this weird thing. Well, I called the sheriff again. Sheriff came out and was like, hey, you know, hey D, what's happening now? You know, what's happening now? No. You know, what's going on tonight? And I'd be like, I'm hearing a woman screaming. And he was like, where? And so I would go, it's over here, but I swear it's a woman screaming. Another time, so there was this report that there was a mountain lion on the loose around town, so be careful. And it was just kind of like, you know, just be careful. Well, so I saw, so where I lived, it was just wilderness behind me, the golf course. There were some houses on on the east side of me, or on the west side of me. On the east side of me, though, there were some houses. I mean, this town is like probably 2,500 people live there, if that. There were more, I used to joke, there were more cows than there were people that lived in this town. And so going up, so walking home, there were no street lamps. There are still no street lights there. There are, you know, lamps, street lamps, like, you know, so you could see the road at night. They don't have any. There's probably one at the supermarket, and they only have one supermarket. But anyway, so I would see this guy, and he looked like he was about 8 feet tall, and he was always standing behind the shed, and I would call. I'm like so awful. I would call the management, and I would say, there is a guy standing behind the shed, and he is just staring at me. He's just staring into my balcony, just staring at me. And you see, so my building in the winter, there was just me, one person in the winter. Then there were probably about 4 or 5 other people that lived there permanently all year round, I mean. And then there were just some people. And then in the summertime, there was like, their timeshares, but not a lot of people would come around in the summertime either, if they decided that they didn't want to use their week. So the building that I lived in was never full. And so I would see this guy out by the shed, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is nutso. This is just crazy. So anyway, so those are kind of like the odd things that would happen. Now walking home, I saw bear, I saw moose, I saw a bull moose, and I did see, not together, but I saw a bull moose, and then another time I saw a cow with her calf as far as a moose is concerned. I saw beaver, I saw grouse. Grouse have a very kind of a strange call too. And then, like I said, I saw a cougar like a few times. I know there are fox out there, but I saw one, and oh my gosh, I'd always try to get a picture of him, and he would disappear, but he had this big grin on his face every dang time I tried to get a picture of him. Funniest thing ever. But then there were just like all different kinds of birds. So in about April, I started hearing, like when I would walk home, and I started hearing knock, like, and I always thought, wow, that woodpecker is just, what time do woodpeckers go to bed, kind of thing. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's just out here like woodpecker. And then when I would walk to the hotel at night, right, I would hear just like, I mean, I know that there are wolves up there. They're all about the wolves up in this little town that I lived in. And they used to be all over the place. And now they're not as common to see, but you can see wolves up there. And then there's also, coyotes as well. And I'm telling you, and everybody has a dog, and a lot of people have cats up there, right? But I'm telling you this because you need to know this, okay? I'm not just talking about this. So, about May, June, I started getting chased by some of these animals. They've had it with me, and I had it with walking all over the place. I would walk everywhere. I probably walked about 8 to 10 miles a day, and I'm not exaggerating. I really would. Now I need to walk more. I'm telling you, damn it. Dang it. Anyway, sorry kids, sorry parents. I said that word. Anyway, so one night, it was about July. Now let me tell you, this road that I would walk, so it goes straight down hill, and it's probably at about a 15-degree or 12 to 15-degree grade or angle. Then and then it curves to the left, and then it goes all the way backwards, so it switchbacks to keep on going downhill. And when it does that, it's a 17% grade going, 17%. And it's one of the steepest and one of the most narrow highways in the United States. It's a dangerous highway. It is a highway. So the first mile going downhill used to be not covered, so it was just it was not asphalt. It was just it was well kept graded dirt road, and I liked that. And the reason why I liked that is because your chances of slipping and falling were a lot less. Number one. Number two, at night you can see better. Because the asphalt is black, it would make the woods, it would make the mountain look even more black. Without the asphalt, you could see at night. You didn't need a flashlight because the dirt, you could actually see it. And so, and that's important because by the time I would reach home, I had my iPhone with me. By the time I reached home, my battery was dead, and I was always afraid of the battery dying, and I couldn't reach anybody, and I'm gonna die up on top of the hill, or up on top of the mountain. I know, I overthink stuff, I get it. So, and then another time, and I'll have to tell you about that story, but I was struck by lightning walking home. I was chased by, there's wild turkey up there that they were scary. But anyway, so one night I was walking home. It was 11 o'clock at night, and let me backtrack. I'm sorry I'm doing this, but when I heard about the cougar, or the family of cougars that are around, and the sheriff brought out a statement saying, take extra precaution. These are some of the things that you can do to scare away a cougar. Don't let your pets out, that kind of thing, When I heard about that, I found out that cougars, or mountain lions, they don't like large noise. You're kind of on the bottom of the food chain when it comes to a cougar. They do stalk humans, but at the same time, you can scare them away. If a cougar approaches you, you can make yourself bigger. You can, make yourself bigger, and then you can use loud noises and screams, and most likely it will get scared and go away, because they are rather, they're not social creatures. They're not like dogs, they're like big cats. They how a cat will hide under a bed to avoid humans. Cougars, they don't always like humans either. But at the same time, I'm not saying that, you couldn't get attacked, and I'm not saying that it's, that they are docile by any means, but, like hitting it with a stick if you're getting attacked. Or this kid, he hit it with a golf club. He took a golf club walking with them, and the cougar approached him, and he scared it away, and he hit it with a golf club, and it ran away from him. And he was like 14 or 15 years old. It was all over the news. It was all over town. Anyway, so when I heard about this, I took this soda can, or like a plain can, and just an empty can, and I would bang it. And then I would walk down the hill, and I'd be kind of banging on it, And I kind of learned my way down the mountain in the night. because I'd walk so much. I'd walk all the way home. And so this particular night, the asphalt was brand new, so it was around July, maybe August, but it was a hot night, and it was always nice and cool up there with a nice cool breeze. But so when you're walking down the hill, there's a hill right here that would go to the parking lot, and then down to my left, after the road, it's a 2-lane road, there would be a large ravine, and there's a river down there, there's, like a cliff, trees, who knows what kind of wildlife is there. And then at the bottom, if you were to just go straight across, you would hit going downhill again to the same road, but it would be switchbacked. But it's like miles away, right? I mean, so the road is a U, and then there were all kinds of, it's not really a good skiing area, but the hill on the other side of the highway, anyway. So I'm walking home, and I hadn't yet pulled out my phone. I was just about to, but I also didn't pull out my can or my keys to either hit or bang. Sometimes I would take like this, I would drink like a gallon. I have to drink about a gallon of water a day. And so when I walk so much, I would carry just a gallon jug, just a regular, one of those gallon plastic jugs. I would carry that around, and the water is so good up there that I would just pour, my tap water in there, because it was like amazing spring water. Anyway, and it's super cold. Oh, so good. Anyway, and so when that was done, I would, if I didn't have anything, I'd put a couple of pebbles inside the gallon jug, and I'd screw on the lid, and then I would just shake it every once in a while, to just kind of scare away the cougars. So just in case there were a couple that were nocturnal. So anyway, sorry this is taking so long. So here I am walking on this brand new road, on this brand new asphalt road, and I get this feeling like an animal is stalking me. Like, I get this strange feeling that I need to stop. And I hear super loud in my head, "Don't move." And it was just like super strong, super powerful, "Don't move." And I looked this way to my right, and now I'm on the road. There is a hill right here, and then on top of that hill there's a parking lot. The parking lot, they didn't have these bright lights. The outside lights on the buildings were very dim, but it was enough that you could just see, but not super bright, because they want to keep the ambience of the, of the mountains. They don't want all this white noise and stuff. So I look over this way, and I see this huge silhouette of a bear, and I just stand there and I'm frozen. The bear comes barreling down super loud, and you can hear bushes smash, and It sounded like a herd of elephants. And it stops right in front of me. And we're talking probably about 2 feet in front of me. It stops. And I'm going, oh my gosh, this bear is on both of its 2 back feet. And it's about 12 feet tall. And it is roaring. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that thing is going to come down on me and he is going to maul my head off. And when he roared, he bent down and he roared in my face. And it was this loudest, longest, it was probably about 30 to 40 seconds, but it felt like about 20-minute long roar right in my face. I mean, literally, like, this is about a foot. It was about a foot away from me, roaring right in my face. And here it is, this like huge bear. Now, mind you, there's no lights around, only the ambiance right here, but you can't see in front of you when these dim, super ambient lights are in the background. I could not see anything in front of me. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, this bear. And I did not know what to do. I just stood there frozen, and I felt like that, I felt like these big arms just wrapping around me to keep me safe. And I felt like, don't move. Just don't move. And I just said, I am sorry I was in your space. I know this mountain is yours. Brother Bear, if you're going to kill me, just don't let me go through pain. Just kill me and it's just going to be a quick death, please. I just don't want to be in physical pain. And I don't want to live to talk about a bear attack. Please, bear, just, God, Jesus, I do not want to die, but if I do, let me go to heaven quickly so I'm just not in pain. I mean, that sounds so crazy, but that's how I felt. I did not want to go through like years of painful, this sounds so dumb, but years and years of like painful physical therapy. I did not want to do that. I did not want to go through like not knowing who my kids were, not knowing who I was, going through brain damage. And I mean, a lot of people get, traumatic brain injuries from a car accident. Being mauled by a bear, I'm sure has, I don't know a lot of people that, I've not heard of a lot of people that have been mauled by a grizzly bear and have survived. And I'm sure there are people that have, or like their arm has been mauled or something, but it's like, kudos to you guys. But I didn't even have a gun on me at the time. I do now have a gun. And every time I go walking in the woods, I'm sorry, I bring my gun. I know it's just going to tickle a bear because it's only, a 38 special or, 40 Magnum. But I know that that's just going to tickle it. But at the same time, hopefully it will deter it enough that I can just hurry and get away. But, gee, I mean, this thing was about 12 feet tall. And when I saw the silhouette on the hill, it was about 18 feet because, it was like on top of a hill and it was crouched down behind a bush. But as soon as it came, but then, so after I said that, it continued the roar, and the roar sounded like a bear and a tiger and a lion roaring all at the same time. So but I really, when the bear stopped and I said that, and I was like, please just let my death be fast. It ran down the ravine to my left. It ran down that thing, not only super fast, but it was like the boss. I mean, it did not, when it stopped and it roared at me and then it ran super fast, I could feel, it felt like a truck driving 40 miles past me, like this wind. And then when it went down the ravine, it was roaring the entire time, and you can hear smashing and crashing, and I'm like, did it just roll down that hill? Like, boom cha boom cha. I mean, it was crazy. It was so crazy. And I stood there and I could still hear it roar, but now it's far away and you can hear like trees smashing. And at that point, I was like, okay. And so I walked backwards, back up the hill and into the parking lot. And I don't know how long between the roaring and the smashing and crashing and then me getting back up to the parking lot that it took, but it must not have been very long. And let me tell you why. By the time I got to the top, I was just going to go and sit in the lodge because I had a key. So I was just going to sit in the lodge and just, just kind of sit there for a minute. And I was going to call my friend who owned the hotel and ask her if I could just go to one of her hotel rooms for the night, and then I would just clean for her in the morning and then go home. And I ended up, when I got to the top of the parking lot, my friend who used to live on the site, he's like a 24/7 kind of like a maintenance caretaker of the whole property complex up there. He had 2 shotguns with him, 2 double barrel shotguns with him, and he's like, I said, did you hear? He goes, what was that? And he's like massive hunter, massive outdoor guy, spent his life outside, spent his life hunting. He's hunts deer and elk. He hunts pheasants and turkey and I mean he uses every part of it, but then he also like has gone up and done hunting trips in Alaska, and I mean he's like Mr. Hunter Man. And he said that, and I was like, he goes, what the bleep was that? And I said, that was a bear. And he just looked at me and he said, that's your story? And I said, it was a bear. And he goes, okay, well, that's what we're telling everybody. It was a bear. And, I kind of thought, okay, but I mean, he would know. He's a hunter guy. Of course it was a bear. I didn't think anything else other than it's a bear, it's a bear, it's a bear, it's a bear. And I think when you are so terrified and something so traumatic happens, that you come up with the first thing that seems logic to you, and a bear seemed logical to me. So here it is, almost an hour later, and I'm telling you, I'm still talking. Sorry. So years later, and we're talking, let's see, that was in 2014. So that was 8 years ago. So 7.5 years ago, so about 4 months ago maybe, I'm listening to a podcast, and the podcast, I'm not going to say the name to protect the person, but I love the podcast. I follow them on Twitter. I'm listening to all of these encounters of Sasquatch or Bigfoot. And after that incident, I told all of my friends, oh my gosh, I was almost attacked by a bear. And I told my family and everything about it. And I was like, yeah, I was almost attacked by a bear. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wildlife, they hate me. There is so many stories to wildlife and me. I don't know what it is, but like I said, I was chased by a moose. Sometimes I'm wondering if it really was a moose, though. Anyway, and so a couple months after this almost bear attack incident, I was telling my friend, and she was like, okay, let's go through this again. So she's telling me, so I'm telling her it was a bear, and so she has a brother who died. But his brother and a few of his friends and him were in a truck, and they saw a Bigfoot. And this area is like, I think it should be called Sasquatchville. And the reason why is because, like, it is so common in this area to see Bigfoot that there's some people that are like, yeah, I just saw Bigfoot yesterday, and they're like talking as though they just saw, Harold down the street, you know what I mean? Just like not a big deal. And it's like seeing a cow or seeing an elk, or a menacing raccoon, what a menace, kind of thing. Well, so my friend, she's like, I think that you need to meet my friend, Dave Carver. And Dave Carver is a guy that, he is the Bigfoot aficionado, I guess, or Bigfoot, enthusiast, that in this town is like, people know him as the Bigfoot guy, and they even call him Bigfoot Boy in this town. And his family is, I don't want to say really big in town, in this little town, but his family is well known. They helped, I guess, kind of build this little town. And so they've been around for, I guess a couple hundred years or something like that. 150 years in this town. Anyway, and I listened to a lot of his encounters. But fast forward to, a couple months ago, I was listening to this Sasquatch encounters, or these Bigfoot encounters. And so that is when I decided, that the person that does this one that this podcast that I listen to, he used to be a hunter, and he used to do it all the time. And him and his brother ran into a Bigfoot that just terrified him. It was a terrifying experience. It was in Washington State, and I think, and he now has this podcast. So I decided to write to him, and when I wrote to him, he responded with, I need to talk to you. So I told him about my experience, and he said, Yeah, if that were a bear, you would not be alive. That bear would have just mopped you up. That bear would have attacked you right then and there. It would not have stopped, made time to roar in your face, and then take off again. And bears, that is not bear behavior, is what he said. He's like, that was a Bigfoot. And so he asked me if I would be willing to go onto his podcast. And I was like, sure. Because I've had other things happen in my life too, not just Bigfoot. I'm a magnet for just crazy things. Anyway, and so that is when, I haven't been able to, but since then I have been just trying to digest this, just trying to digest that, this is Bigfoot. And, what do I do with this information? There's really not a lot I can do. I mean, who's going to believe me? I don't want to lose my job over this, so I have a couple of friends that they watch this, and they're like, wow, this is really cool that you do this. And and then of course I told my daughter, and then I told my mom, and I said, Mom, do you remember that bear attack that almost happened, but I didn't get attacked? And I told her, and she's like, that really makes sense. And I said, this person that is my, that I listen to his podcast, and I sent her information on his podcast because she can listen on, he's on Pandora, and my mom has Pandora in her car. And so now she listens to him. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, you can, this para-weird stuff that this community I'm trying to build, you're made fun of for just about anything, I mean, Bigfoot or Dogman or demon or, seeing angels. You can be made fun of for seeing angels. And so I wanted to come out and talk about it because I'm hoping that there's someone out there that, I'm not saying that I'm hoping that someone went through this, but that, not only am I trying to help other people and give them support and comfort for some of these things that they are experiencing and nobody's listening to them, or, they're not believed, I'm also kind of doing it for me too, so I can, make a community of people that we're kind of all in this together. And so I really, really am hoping that there's someone out there that would want to share their story with me so that I can share it with everybody. My last video, I spoke about someone is going to be talking about their Ouija board experience, and I've given this person, time to just kind of, gather thoughts and that kind of thing, and I'm gonna reach out to her again. And I know what's gonna happen. It's just there were a couple of things that unexpectedly happened in her life. Life just happens. So I'm really looking forward to that video. Anyway, I'm sorry this video is so long, but if you guys have an experience, please contact me at theparaweirdo@gmail.com, and we can get your story out. Anyway, thank you so much for your support, and I hope you enjoyed this experience. I'm still trying to process the fact that it's no longer a bear. I kind of, not saying I didn't believe in that kind of stuff before. I did. It's just that there's a lot of other things that happened before that is like, wow, that makes sense now, Anyway, have a great week, and in the next couple of days I should be posting again. I'm sorry that I haven't for a while. I've just had to process some things in my mind, but I'm back, and I will be doing I'm thinking of doing a drum session on the full moon, and if anybody's interested in joining me, let me know. I can go live and we can do our drumming session together. Anyway, that would be kind of fun. Well, have a good night, have a good day, have a nice rest of your weekend. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, and I will be posting again real soon. Take care. See you later. Bye.